Speaker Johnson suffers defeat as GOP rebels tank effort to block remote voting for new parents. The story, of course, that 9 Republicans have sided with Democrats. They want a vote on proxy voting for new mothers. Speaker Johnson says we need to be voting on shutting down these corrupt judges that are blocking Trump, to be voting on the SAVE Act, to be fixing this country, not giving individuals the right to stay home, not to mention a bill which violates the Civil Rights Act. The idea that women would be given special provisions allowing them to vote remotely and not do their job in Congress is shockingly insane, in my opinion. But my friends, this story is oh so fascinating. Not only is it the Republicans, 9 of them, obstructing the Trump agenda so they don't have to do their jobs, but this brings up insane questions. Well, no, not insane, but actually quite reasonable questions as it pertains to the differences between men and women and why there are different laws. So I'll just say right off the bat, I do not believe members of Congress should be allowed to not do their jobs. You signed up. You know the rules. You do your job. Pete Hegseth recently said the standards for everyone in the armed forces will be the same. We should not be lowering standards for women. If women want to do the job, they are entitled to. It is their right, but the standards are the same across the board. You show up for work or you quit. Now, this all begins with Rep. Anna Paulina Luna, who I know, I've had on the show, who recently had a child and has been pushing for proxy voting. I find this to be reprehensible. The choice to have a child is your choice. And it is true that men and women are affected differently. But you cannot allow anyone, this just does not work, okay? Perhaps the issue should be, it is 2 years you are serving in Congress. If you'd like to have a family, maybe you should not be serving in Congress. Imagine if we hired a firefighter, a woman, and then with limited budget, she decides to have a child and says, I shouldn't have to do my job anymore. That's an absurdity. To think because you're in Congress, you deserve special privileges over everybody else when you decide to have a family. Think about the exploitation. These are individuals who spent large sums of money to win an office. And then if you decide to have a child, you knew what you were doing the whole time. This is a very interesting question pertaining to men and women. Well, let's start with the news on the issue. We've got some commentary for and against from women. CNN reports Speaker Mike Johnson on Tuesday abruptly halted all work in the House after suffering a major defeat over his push to block remote voting in Congress for new parents. 9 of his own GOP members, led by new mom Rep. Anna Paulina Luna, rebelled against his leadership team, tanking a procedural vote on a measure that many considered anti-family, despite a fierce pressure campaign from Johnson and his allies to support it. The drama has effectively paralyzed the House as Johnson's leadership team scrambles for another way to prevent Luna and other Republicans from working with Democrats to change the chamber's rules to allow parents of newborns to vote remotely. I oppose this 100%. I am a new father. I know just how much work it is to be a mom. It is a full-time job. It is an absurdity to me, the idea that a woman would decide to have a child while trying to do a different job. I mean it. I am 100% for maternity leave. We here at Timcast give unlimited maternity leave. We have the ability to do so because with all due respect to companies that can't, and I'm not trying to make it seem like we're morally superior, most of the functions of this company are investment, expansion, and cultural, meaning we have the budget to tell the women who work here, if you have a kid, certain things you'll be able to do remotely, you can, and you get maternity leave for as long as you want. Congress is not one of those jobs. Certainly, there's long periods in Congress where they're in recess. If a woman decides to have a child when they're in session and then wants special privileges, I find that deeply offensive. Understanding men don't face the same complication. But guess what? Men and women are different. It's supposed to be Republicans that recognize that. And again, I will stress this as a new father myself. There are things, tremendous things that men cannot do that only women can do. So as I am here at work, and my wife is raising the child, and with all due respect, she's actually still doing some work. Not the I would say a lot. This job is a bit different in that you can do a lot of things remotely, conferring with legal and getting checks signed and things of that nature. But if you need to go to Congress to debate, to vote, that is your job, and you cannot do it. Take leave. Take leave. I find this offensive. I see just how much work it is to be a mom, and for these women to choose this on the Republican side, no less, and then say, you know what, we want special privileges over everybody else. I'm not surprised Democrats are asking for it. This is a tremendously progressive anti-family move to push this. They say one idea under consideration is linking Trump's agenda to the measure that would block remote voting, aiming to pressure those 9 Republicans to choose between the president's priorities and the proxy effort, according to a person familiar with the thinking. But no plans have yet been decided. For now, Johnson is stuck and casting blame squarely on Luna and the group of rebels who opposed their party's measure on the floor. Let me just make this clear. The rule being brought down means we cannot have any further action on the floor this week. That means we will not be voting on the SAVE Act for election integrity. We will not be voting on the rogue judges that are attacking President Trump's agenda. All that was just wiped off the table. It is very unfortunate. I am deeply offended by this. This is insane. We have more important things right now to deal with. We have, in the Wisconsin Supreme Court, Democrats won. You've got a very real fear that Donald Trump could be impeached. First thing, January 2027. And right now, we are seeing obstruction in Congress while Trump is being barred by unconstitutional actions from judges, a judicial coup, they call it. And we are paralyzed now with this ineffective, ridiculous Congress over 9 people who are saying, I demand special privileges. It is insane to me. Okay, here we go. They say because Luna's bill would allow proxy voting, as lawmakers did in the pandemic, which I oppose as well. For new parents who are unable to travel to Washington, too effing bad. Look, millions of jobs, the majority of jobs, if you've got a newborn and you're raising a child, you cannot do. Don't apply for a job you cannot do. Because Luna's bill carries special powers under a procedural tool known as discharge petition, it will receive a vote on the floor automatically unless GOP leaders can find another way to block it. Johnson ultimately lost 9 Republicans on the measure to block Luna's push, and even more could vote against party leaders on the up or down vote next week, according to multiple people involved in the whip operation. North Carolina Rep. Richard Hudson, who runs the House GOP campaign arm, told CNN that 9 GOP lawmakers bucking leadership to tank the effort was frustrating. He says, when you got a tight margin, these things happen. We'll work through it. Hudson tried to downplay the defeat, adding, we've had these hiccups for 2 years, indeed. Johnson and Luna have battled for months over Florida Congresswoman's push to allow proxy voting in Congress for parents of newborns, an effort that she began after she gave birth last year and was unable to vote for weeks. But the institutionalist Republican speaker has fiercely rejected the push, forcing Luna to choose the more contentious approach of working with Democrats. How miserably offensive. How miserably offensive. Here's let me show you this first. I'll give you some. Look, this one riles me up because I'm so sick of this argument that certain class of people are warranted special privileges over others. Everybody's dealt a different set of cards in life. And we all abide by the same rules. This is equity BS leftist garbage. No, I get special access because otherwise I can't see the baseball game. No. Some people are born poor. Some people are born rich. You figure out how to navigate the system. We play by the same rules. We are not some Marxist leftist garbage where we say we're going to give you a special access and special privilege based on your class, race, identity, or otherwise. Marjorie Taylor Green chimed in. Here's what she had to say.
Voted on this rule, Luna's bill, is extremely unfortunate. You know, being in Congress is a privilege. You don't have to be here. And there's plenty of people in her district that could serve in Congress if she chose for time to be home and be a mother. I'm very much against the bill that she's trying to force to the floor and the way she's going about it. And I think it's wrong. And it's really going to open up the door to proxy voting, which is already unconstitutional.
Indeed.
And we shouldn't be doing it. And I think members of Congress need to basically leave their egos at the door and realize that this is an important job. In the same way that soldiers go off and they're deployed overseas, they come home and actually meet their babies for the first time, and their
Indeed.
babies are several months old. Members of Congress don't have to be here. They don't have to be here. Being a member of Congress is a privilege. You're serving your district. There's lots of seasons of life. I'm a mother. I've raised 3 children. And when my children were babies and were young, I prioritized them in that season of life. Now I serve in Congress because I'm not raising children. And I think that's a really important point to make. And if any member of Congress, for any reason whatsoever, finds them in a situation where they're not able to do the job here, the important job we're elected to do, they should step down because someone else can serve in their place. They're not required to be here. They're not more important than anyone. They're not more important than people in their district. And they shouldn't go across the aisle and work with Democrats while Democrats use a baby propped up around the floor trying to prove their point. But instead, they're holding a baby proving the point you can be a mother and serve in Congress. So I think today, I think this is unfortunate, and it's distracting, and it's off message, and it's not the agenda. It's not serving the American people.
Indeed. I agree with Marjorie Taylor Green. We have this rebuttal. This is Rep. Brittany Peterson holding her newborn baby while speaking in favor of allowing remote voting for newborn parents. Let's see what she has to say.
I rise today in strong opposition to this rule, which restricts moms and dads from doing their jobs after welcoming a new child. Like so many of our colleagues, it's one of my greatest honors to be a mom. I have 2 little boys, a son named Davis, who's 5, and my little guy here, Sam, who's now 9 weeks old. It's also one of my greatest honors to have been elected by my constituents to represent them in Congress. And I can tell you, after being a mom here and being only the 13th member to have ever given birth while serving in Congress, voting member, I can tell you we have a long ways to go.
Let me stress that right there. Only 13 people have ever had children while serving in Congress, and they want to open the door to unconstitutional voting practices for this special privileged class. It is deeply offensive.
To make this place accessible for young families like mine. When I was pregnant, I couldn't fly towards the end of my due date because it was unsafe for Sam. And you're unable to board a plane, and I was unable to actually have my vote.
We are such a deeply unserious nation, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what to tell you. The idea that we would be playing this ridiculous game, we are going to be crushed by our foreign adversaries who mock and belittle us and would never allow something like this.
Vote represented here and my constituents represented. After giving birth, I was faced with an impossible decision.
I gotta pause. I am so deeply offended by this woman carrying a 9-week-old to Congress to use as a prop. First of all, now, largely I'd say it's probably fine at this point. But again, new father myself, doctors said maybe you should hold off for a month or 2 before your child has exposure to large groups of people because you don't want your baby to get sick. Now, I'm not gonna pretend to be a doctor for this lady, but here she is 9 weeks on, bringing her newborn into Congress to use as a prop so she can advocate for special privileges only bestowed upon her and 12 other people ever.
Sam was 4 weeks old, and for all of the parents here, we know that when we have newborns, it's when they're the most vulnerable in their life. It's when they need 24/7
I think she should be expelled from Congress because I am so shockingly offended by this.
care. When taking them even to a grocery store is scary because you're worried about exposure to germs. And then,
Hey, wow. Oh, how about that? She literally just made my point for me. You are worried about exposure to germs, and here you are bringing the child into a massive public building in a major metro surrounded by people. You are lying, and this is so insanely wrong.
getting sick, let alone taking them to an airport, on a plane, and coming across the country to
Which
make
is what
sure
you're
that you're
doing?
able to vote and represent your constituents.
Quit.
I was terrified that no matter what choice I made, that I would have deep regrets for the consequences. So Sam and I made the trip out, and this is our 3rd time now coming to the floor for this vote. I want to thank all the people who have
3rd time, huh? So you mean to tell me that you were able to bring your child every time you voted so you can do that? What's the issue?
stood by us. I want to thank Representative Luna for being such a champion on this issue. And while Sam is the best baby.
The baby is very cute. Your baby Sam is very cute. I'll give you that one. This is nothing disparaged to the baby. I like kids. Have more. I like the kid.
I apologize for the noises here, but I want to thank Representative Luna for being
Okay, with all due respect, look at that little guy. Okay, ma'am, raise your child. You have a great little kid there. He's very cute. I am shockingly offended at those who would argue for special privileges. But I also would stress that you owe it to the child, not to whatever it is you think you're supposed to be doing. And there's anybody else who could represent your district. I don't understand this at all.
Such a champion on this issue, alongside the rest of my colleagues who have led this charge and supported us in our efforts to pass this resolution. When I hear from members about their stories, whether they're a mom or a dad, doing this job, having a newborn who's in the NICU and having to make the choice of whether or not to leave their child or come here to vote. It is unfathomable.
Okay, look, the baby's very cute, but I think it's sick that she's doing this.
That in 2025, we have not...
Also, come on, support the baby's neck.
...not modernized Congress to address these very unique challenges that members face, these life events where our voices should still be heard, our constituents should still be represented.
On 1 minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, you see how the baby is making faces and how she has to lift it up? I know that most of you who watch this probably had kids way before me, so I assume that most of you get it. It's a lot of work. You see how she started getting out of breath trying to hold the baby? The idea that she decided to do both at the same time, it's an absurdity. It's an absurdity largely pushed by childless liberal women. And she says she's only the 13th person to ever have a child while serving in Congress. You do not get special privileges. My friends, I can't with this, okay? This is insane. This is insane. We should be focused on what's going on with the Trump agenda, delivering for the American people, fixing this economy. While Trump has made tremendous moves, which I am very, very in favor of, I also have recognized from the beginning he's got to get a handle on the economic situation. Maybe it's short-term losses, long-term gains, whatever it may be. The American people are worried about their retirements. This is going to affect how these special elections and the midterms end up going. With Wisconsin, that just went down, which I will have a large segment on for you guys later. We're in the hot seat. We're in the hot seat. I'm going to say this. There are very few things that would ever get me to get into politics, like actual electoral politics. And people have said, whether jokingly or half serious or whatever, Tim, you should run for office, whatever. Never going to happen. Not going to happen. That being said, there's one thing I would do in a heartbeat that you've heard me say. If Donald Trump himself said, Tim, we want you to head up a task force in the DOJ that arrests law enforcement officers who violated their oath and facilitated crimes, trafficking, etc., I'd say, sign me up. That's it. Liberals, you want to get me to quit? That's how you do it. Because I will go and arrest every single cop, every Fed, every DHS, you name it, that COVID lockdown people, that facilitated child trafficking, all of that stuff. However, I'm going to add a new provision. If there were ever a circumstance in which I had the unilateral authority to expel members of Congress, sign me up. Any individual that voted on this provision to give special privileges to him, expelled. Expelled outright. Expelled. Well, no. To be fair, you have a kid. I say this. Here are your options. Maternity leave. Take care of your kid. I think that's fair, long as you need to. What's that? You can't vote then? Too bad. Let your constituents complain about that. Now, this is not a job you can do remotely, and it's not a job you can just leave. There are many jobs where you can take maternity leave. Why? Well, because if somebody works here, for instance, at Timcast, and they're, let's say what do you got? Janitor. You're a janitor, and you get pregnant. And you're just like, you clean up and you organize and you have a kid. I say, take as much time as you need. Literally, just don't even worry about it. Your paychecks will be regular. You want for nothing. Raise your child, because I believe it's important for people to have kids. And I respect that. I am a bit of a liberal as it comes to these things. I know people on the right may more say, like, you choose to have a kid, you don't get paid anymore. No. I'll even keep paying you. I think it's a good thing you're having a kid. I will hire another person to fill in for your job to clean while you're having that kid. Don't even worry about it. That's my mentality. You can't do that with Congress. Congress is an elected position that affects the entirety of the country and all peoples, and you have to be able to vote. So here's an idea. Resign. No special privileges for a specific class. I'm offended that Rep. Luna decided to team up with Democrats on what is an overtly DEI move. This is equity. This is exactly as they describe equity. Some people are short and some people are tall. So instead of giving everybody the same rules and the same chance, they say, well, it's not fair because the tall people don't need the stepping stool. They can already see the baseball game. But people who are short can't see at all, so they need 2 stools. That's the equity argument. I reject that. I say everybody knows the rules and not everyone is meant to do every job. We're not going to put a bipolar paraplegic in the Marines. It does not make sense. We need the best of the best, the strongest. We need commandos. This idea that this equity idea of, well, she wants to be a mom. Yeah, mom's a full-time job. So pick one. I think being a mother is extremely important. I believe we should be giving massive tax breaks because we want to say there is value in what you do and society is going to alleviate those tax pressures. I think we're overtaxed as it is. We need moms who are dedicated to being moms, not moms who want to half-ass their jobs and do both and demand special privileges so they can do 2 things at once. As the saying goes, my friends, I believe it's a Japanese proverb, something like, he who attempts to catch 2 hares shall catch neither. Is that what it is? It's something like that. Let me see. Catch 2 rabbits. I want to get this one right. What's the actual, a man who chases 2 rabbits catches neither. It's an old saying. It's Confucius, Chinese. Ha! Sorry, China. I called it Japanese. It's Chinese. A man who chases 2 rabbits catches neither. That's the point. Pick your job and focus on it. You're having a kid. Ma'am, your baby is very cute. I think, I hope the best for that child. You should be at home with your child. That kid should not be exposed to germs. And the idea that she would say, but I have to fly on a plane and bring my baby to Congress, exposing him to germs. We see your priorities. We see your priorities. It is not your child. It is not your child. It is your politics, and you're half-assing your child. I am offended by that. Look, my wife works hard every single day, waking up in all hours of the night. We both do, but to be fair, I don't feed the baby. And so my wife, Allison, is constantly on beck and call for a newborn. It is a very, very difficult job to be a mother. It is one of the most, if not the most important job a human being can do. The idea that you would half-ass that job so that you could half-ass Congress, I find offensive. Ultimately, it comes down to this, my friends. We do not, in this nation, give special privileges based on your gender, race, or otherwise. So no. And now these Democrats and 9 Republicans are blocking the Trump agenda efforts. So insane. I'll wrap it up there. Stay tuned. We got more segments coming up, my friends. Stick around, and we will see you all in the next bit. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast, and we'll see y'all soon.